Now, welcome. So, Cork and finals. Not been a great year. 3 in a row's gone. Galway sail off into the sunset very happy after what was a brilliant spectacle at Croke Park yesterday. It came down to the final few seconds, really. Cork 113, Galway 114 is how it finished. There was drama right the way through. And we're going to chat about it now. Happy to say we're joined by Ursula Jacob, who's on the line. Hello, you're very welcome, Ursula.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Look, it's hard to do it 3 in a row, you know. Some people can do it, some can't.
Well, that's it. That yesterday just proved that, didn't it? And it's hard to believe that no one has done it since my Wexford team of 2012. But it just shows it's not an easy thing to do. Winning one is tough enough. Backing it up is a bigger challenge, and then obviously the 3 in a row. You know, for Cork, it's another missed opportunity. Like, it's hard to believe this is now their 8th time they've tried since 1972 and failed, and that'll be a hugely disappointing thing. Now, obviously, you know, they were very gallant in how they came back in the second half, and you know, to be fair, they've been incredible champions. And when you look at their kind of record the last kind of 3 years, like their last loss in the championship was June 2023, so they went 17 games unbeaten. So they were going to lose that streak at some stage, but unfortunately for them, it was yesterday on the biggest stage in an All-Ireland final. And my God, Galway brought everything to the table, and I just don't think Cork had the answers for them. I think tactically Galway got a lot of things right.
Okay.
And Cork looked a little bit like the hurlers, a little bit shell-shocked in some ways. They looked disorganised at the back. They looked very open at the back. Mairead Dillon's goal was very similar to how Waterford got through in the semi-final. I couldn't believe the space that she had. So those little things were very un-Cork-like for me. And something I wasn't expecting, because I felt that maybe they would have got those things, you know, fine-tuned from the semi-final performance. And I know they can't do anything about the teams that they faced up to the final, but they were very, very untested in this year's championship. Galway probably had the tougher route, progressed nicely through the group stages, and the same with the semi-final performance, and just seemed to be peaking at the right time. So all in all, I think Galway, you know, overall deserved yesterday's win.
Yeah. Colin Murray made that point, actually. It was one of the least, it wasn't picked up as much because I think Ger Manley's comments have loomed large, but Colin Murray was saying, look, we beat Dublin, we beat Derry, we beat Waterford, we beat Tip, we beat Kilkenny just to get to a final. So plenty of road testing done. Sarah O'Donovan is with us. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I have decided I'm not going to Croke Park anymore in It's very expensive year. No cups. No cups in the car on the way home. Yeah. Next year I'll have to find a new hobby, lads. This is heartbreaking. You know what the worst part is? You feel it in your bones. Like, I've been carrying that hurling loss for 2 weeks. My arms are heavy from it. And this just compounds it now, this Camogie loss.
Well, I wouldn't mind, but you said before we started you've watched the game back 3 times. So I don't know what that says about you psychologically. Something dark, I think.
Glutton for punishment, but whatever way I slice and dice it, Galway were just better.
Right, okay. Well, let's get into it then. Our GA coverage here in the podcast is with thanks to AIB, at the heart of Gaelic games for both club and county. You can check out #the toughest for more. So there's tons of places we could start, obviously. I suppose, Sarah, you said you slice it and dice it any number of ways and you reach the same conclusion. So list off for us the different ways, or the way in particular you thought Galway were better, and we'll work off your answer.
So I think they took incredible risks from the outset. I think they played on the edge for the whole game. Individually, they were willing to take massive risks and were on yellow cards very early on. Aoife O'Donovan was on a yellow card after 10, 12 minutes for that takedown for the penalty that Cork were awarded. Now, that was a strike across the body that another referee could have adjudged to been over the edge, and she could have received a red card. But she was so relentless in her pursuit of Cork and stopping them from winning the game and winning the 3 in a row that she kind of epitomised how risk oriented Galway were to get themselves over the line, and that's the first place that I would start. Ursula, would you agree?
Without a doubt, they played on the edge. They brought that physicality that they had from the semi-final to another level yesterday. And I felt like Cork weren't able for it. They were rattled. I think that probably led to the red card in how Hannah reacted to the dunt in the back. Mm. It all kind of stemmed from the opening period where Galway were swarming around the Cork players. They were getting the hooks in, the blocks in, the tackles in, and Cork weren't liking it, and they probably haven't been hit as hard all year, and maybe in the previous year, probably since last year's final against Galway.
Yeah.
And to that point, Joe, actually, a soundbite from during the year, which I don't know has made it to the papers. Cork had suggested that the most competitive game they had played this year was an in-house game against their under-23s.
Wow.
Which speaks to the level of competition that they didn't get, similar to Galway. And ironically, the Galway under-23s pulled off a major shock to beat the Cork under-23 team 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that kind of speaks to the lack of competition they've had, and that they weren't hit hard enough or often enough this year in the lead up to the final.
So take that kind of line being drawn in the sand, Aoife Donoghue's hit. And it was a hit. It wasn't just a foul. Like it was both. You're not getting in on goal, and I'm taking you out. And it's great Cork play. I think as Mackie plays a brilliant ball, and Amy O'Connor's in, and boom. Like, considering there's no black card, considering you're not going to get sent off for that realistically, considering we don't see as many penalties converted in Camogie, it's sort of like it really incentivizes Aoife Donoghue to put in that hit. I wonder, will they look at that?
I would say, Joe, it would be a shame if they did. Okay. I think defences have it hard enough. And you look at the scores that Cork put up this year, 20-point victories in a lot of their games. They were unstoppable to the final. The cynicism that Cork show, Galway show, Kilkenny show is kind of reflective of the confidence that they play with and how they understand the rules. And I don't want to see a black card come in for that kind of, I suppose, challenge, because I think it's on the edge, but I enjoy being on the edge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree, Ursula.
Yeah, like, to be honest, if Aoife was my teammate and I was the manager of that team yesterday, like, that's what you be. It's not, I wouldn't even call it cynical, but I'd be saying to her, like, look, I think Galway had it in their minds yesterday. There was no way through for Cork. So do whatever it takes to and not allow that happening. And I would agree, Joe, that I'd love to look at the conversion rate of like penalties in Camogie. It's actually not very high.
No. That's why it's a no-brainer for Donoghue to make that hit. There's a 50-50 chance penalty might be saved. So that you almost need to disincentivize it. You almost, whether the penalty's closer or some way to make it more punitive. Because yesterday, especially when you saw the penalty saved, and then Aoife Donoghue, I think, just to rub salt in the wound, went up and scored another point. So it was like a 4-point swing. I don't know. I'm with you, Sarah. You love players on the edge. You love physicality in the game. Like ladies, Gaelic football at the moment is kind of just furious with the lack of physicality in their game. It's just, my point, Ursula, sorry to interrupt you, was you want Aoife Donoghue to think twice, maybe.
But this is what I'm talking about, the risk factor here. Aoife was on a yellow from 12 minutes, and a player who's incredibly physical runs the gauntlet because she knows she doesn't want to give Cork momentum. And then she has to play the rest of the game on a yellow and take the same level of physicality into every challenge. And she had numerous challenges after that.
So that's enough.
That were on the edge.
That's enough for you that she gets a yellow. Move on.
Yeah.
Move on.
Okay. You brought up the red card then, Ursula. So let's stay with the referee because he's a talking point. I'm sure people have seen the comments of Ger Manley, who has called Justin Heffernan's performance shocking. He thinks the free at the end, Carrie Dolan's free at the end, was a dive. He called for the introduction of the hooter. That's more of a separate point. He cited the push on Amy Lee, which, to be fair, I mean, he has a point there. And I guess the red card then, Hannah Looney. Did he have a choice with Looney? So she's not the aggressor. She's getting dunted. I think you're right when you say she was frustrated with how the game is going. And she throws her left hand in the direction of head. Now, she doesn't hit the head. She sort of hits the shoulder. Do you have to send her off there?
Like, without a doubt, Hannah's not a dirty player. She's not. And I don't like seeing anyone getting sent off. But for me, she leaves Justin with little choice but to send her off.
Okay.
It is a red card for me. It was completely out of frustration, out of character for Hannah. I've never seen her sent off in her life, but unfortunately, if you're going to do something like that, meters away from the referee, it was a big call, but I think it was the right decision. Now I know Justin and the referee is getting a lot of slack today and whatever. If I look at some of the major calls, he got the penalty decision right. Yeah. It was a penalty. He got the red card right. I do think Carrie was fouled for the free. I don't think it was a dive. I think he got that right. Caoimhe Kelly did push Amy Lee. That should have been a free out. Therefore, the biggest kind of calls that people are aggrieved by, he got 3 of those right, in my opinion. The red card, the free to win it for Galway, and the penalty.
Yeah.
Going back to that frustration, Ursula, that you talked about with Hannah, after 4 minutes, Hannah's involved in a tussle with 2 of the Galway players. She wins a free, I think, and she starts rolling around the ground. And she's rolling on the ground for too long, right? Mm. And this is me not being overly critical of Hannah, but she hops up. And I'm thinking at that point, and I actually texted a couple of people and said, I think they're after getting into her head. And that was after 4 minutes, Joe, right?
Yeah.
And all through that first half, there was needle. And yes, Carrie Dolan dunts her in the back, but it was an overreaction. As Ursula said, she gives Justin no alternative. It's a high strike around the head. Carrie goes down. I think that Galway, again, that physicality was just really stressful for Cork. And that incident after 4 minutes, people will go back and look at it and say, God, there was an overreaction there because she wasn't used to getting hit. But to her credit, she scores this incredible point midway through the first half. And I'm thinking, okay, use this. Get away from the players rather than get involved, and that's probably what I'll be most disappointed about for Hannah, is that she had all the athleticism to avoid those kind of instances, and she ends up in 2 in the course of the first half.
Yeah. I guess a moment which captures a lot of what you're both talking about as well is Mairead Dillon's goal, as in, like, Cork only have themselves to blame, and it's the kind of goal you give away maybe when you're not being tested the way you should be through a season. Like Aisling Thompson, it's a sideline cut, and it's nothing against Aisling Thompson, who scored 2 great points in that first half in many ways. But I mean, when you think like it's All-Ireland final, and it's just like it's a square ball, and then Sorkin McCartan doesn't raise it, like it's kind of like that you get away with that against lesser opposition, doesn't get it up, and then it's Swarm, and who's there but Donoghue again, and she runs perfectly, draws the man, pass off, brilliant goal. As you said, Ursula, Cork a little bit open. But they're probably open because they're falling asleep a bit, because it's our sideline ball, and we're kind of, let's see what happens. And all of that, like, there was so much in that. The way the Galway players pounced, admittedly, as well, when McCartan couldn't get the ball up. So there was, it's credit to them as well. But ultimately, that just felt, Ursula, like Cork shooting themselves in the foot. It's such a bad goal to give away in every way.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's something that it will be most pleasing for Galway, but it'll be so sickening for Cork. Like, Galway scored 110 from turnovers yesterday, and as you said, Joe, like, that was a sideline ball that Cork needed to and should have won. And Galway kind of punished those mistakes of Cork. That's what they did. The word I just kept using yesterday, Cork looked rattled in every way. They just didn't seem to be settled on the ball. They were a bit jittery. They seemed to be a little bit confused communicating to each other on the pitch. I don't know, could you see that on television? But we were pitch side. And in the first half, you could see where the defence, there was a kind of communication. Laura Tracy was sitting back in her usual role. But there was one stage, honest to God, Mairead Dillon was standing in on her own inside the 21-metre line, and there was no one on her. This was like after she had got the goal. And Anna Geary was to the right of me, and I said, I couldn't believe that there was no one picking her up. There was no communication. So it just seemed like they were a bit all over the place. But like, it was like a replica of the semi-final game, how Waterford got their goal. So I couldn't understand how Cork would not expect that Galway weren't going to maybe try something similar. That's where Galway had their homework done. That was kind of like a goal I would see Cork scoring. The running game, the support play, the running off the shoulder. and Cork weren't prepared for it, and that was surprising. And I think they didn't get maybe their matchups right. And, you know, like Aoife Healy had a tough day on Aoife Donoghue yesterday. They probably didn't switch it early enough. Whereas I felt Galway got most of their matchups right yesterday. I know it's easier to say that now when they've won, but they did. Their homework was done on Cork in every way.
Yeah. Your thoughts on all that, Sarah?
Yeah, even to Circa McCartan's positioning on the pitch in the first half, you'll see her in camera, like, you know, 10, 15 feet off of Aoife Donoghue as she's running towards goal. Circa McCartan has number 14 on her back. Why she was back in the centre-back position and being dragged that far out the field kind of spoke to how upset Galway made Cork. Circa McCartan should never have been near her own goal line, but she was, because Aoife Donoghue was doing so much work that she was nearly the player that was, she was kind of tagging every player on, say, on their shoulder, if this makes sense. She was kind of releasing the next player free. So Cork couldn't get a handle on who they were actually supposed to be marking. And this is why Maury Dillon ends up inside the 21 on her own.
And
because
if you see
the
Aoife,
level of confusion,
she passes that ball to Mairead, there's 3 Cork players around Aoife and no one out on Mairead.
Yeah.
They were getting just nearly obsessed with trying to stop Aoife Donoghue. And very often in a game like that, when you get consumed by trying to stop one of the big names, someone lesser known and maybe someone that you mightn't be keeping the same eye on, you know, ends up being the one who scores the vital goal.
And do you, in your heart of hearts, you look at the two teams, do you feel Cork are the better team? Let me put it to you this way. Say this was like some grand kind of old school rugby tour and they were going to play each other 10 times and Cork now have got this first test out of their system and they were to go again, because I'm conscious they had this terrible day, down to 14, everything that could go wrong went wrong and they were level in the 60th minute. Do you think if they played under 5, 6, 7, 8 times, Cork, just by, you know, by dint of better competition, playing at that kind of intensity, would come out on top over Galway?
From my point of view, I think that the reason the game was still a spectacle at 60 minutes when Cork had 14 players versus Galway's 15 speaks to the individual athleticism and talent of the Cork setup. And I would say, pound for pound, Cork have better players.
Yeah.
But yesterday they were rattled, and Ursula has summed it up. Laura Tracy, Laura Hayes, Aisling Thompson. Aisling Thompson yesterday scored 2 points in the first half, but what was disappointing about Aisling's performance is her physical strength should allow her to come out of a ruck with the ball, but she was actually fumbling ball, losing ball, being dispossessed by players who were smaller than her.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening.
Just not at the pitch of it.
Yeah, just not at the pitch of it.
Yeah.
Whereas on the flip side, for me, like, you know, when you look at Galway and you look at them the last 10 years, right, it's the same leaders and players that we're going to talk about in 20, 30 years' time about being absolutely top class, some of the best players out there, right? Aoife Donoghue, a big game, another huge performance, another player of the match performance, like absolutely outstanding. Ailish O'Reilly, it's like she's rolled back the years to like 10 years ago. She looked fresher than ever, like in the last 2 games. Like she looks like she's a 20-year-old running around. Like she controlled so much of the play yesterday that, like, sometimes we get over consumed about, you know, someone, oh, she's past 30, she's an owl one or whatever. She has such an intelligent hurling brain that, like, she's unmarkable when she's at her very best. Carrie Dolan, like, you can say what you want, but the free taken from Carrie yesterday was top class.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows the importance of having a solid free taker within your team. Like, that was not an easy, like, if Patrick Horgan, Joe Cannon, TJ Reid, Aaron Gillan, whoever took that free, it would be on the front pages of all papers today, because, like, it was absolutely a top class score.
Yeah.
So going back to, do I think, you know, Cork or Galway are a better team? I look at some of those players and the big names on the big stage stood up, you know, the highest yesterday for me. They've done that the last 10 plus years. And that's why they've 4 All-Irelands in their pocket now, because they're able to maintain that consistency and bring the biggest performance on the biggest stage of the year.
Well, that's very fair, actually. And I'm sure the way I asked the question, Colin Murray would tell me where to go as well.
Mm.
So
Sure, look.
here's what he said of the Irish Examiner in particular. They did, like all, media tend to do in advance of the game, gave players ratings as a let's compare how they stack up. There's huge hurt in our camp and from last year as well. We were written off completely ahead of this game. The Irish Examiner yesterday, any Galway person or player reading that, our player ratings, go back and read it. It's absolutely fucking insulting. I thought it was the biggest insult ever. And that's coming out for the last week, 2 weeks. We were given no chance. So that's kind of look. That's kind of just the last little bit of fuel. You're not going to win a game just based on being peeved, but they did play with a certain intensity. Sarah,
Did, like they were angry.
yeah,
Yeah,
there was a little bit of fuel there. I mean, it doesn't get you over the line, but if you were to say to me based on the performances and you read out those quotes, which team do you think was a bit more peeved? I think it is Galway.
Joe, actually, I did a bit of research this morning because I was interested in Cahill's comments, right? They were written by a Galway man who stands over those comments based on attending every game in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And Cahill can't be aggrieved by those comments. This morning I said, oh, were they written by a Cork journalist? They were written by a Galway journalist.
God,
And
it's an inside job. It's incredible.
look, you know what? The comments and the previews is that, journalists' opinion based on the last games that they've obviously watched. The
Yeah.
league final was not pretty. And Cahill referenced that also. They didn't have a good day on the line in the league final.
Yeah.
And Ailish O'Reilly didn't have a good day on the league final. Neither did Aoife Donoghue. Both were taken off. Both had heads down coming off the field after 40 minutes. There was lots in that after the league final. There was lots to work with. And they were the better tested team, and that's why they won yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is about a siege mentality, you don't have to be right. It doesn't matter.
You just have to have the energy, though, Joe, to back it up. You know what I mean? And some teams can go and think that they have a siege mentality, but the effort doesn't match the mentality. So Galway's energy matched their mentality yesterday.
I didn't realize actually, I didn't realize it was 110 off turnover. But now that you mention it, there are so many moments. Like even there was just before half time, that kind of crucial period, and then Coppinger, out in front, won the ball brilliantly, but then she's so harassed, she ends up just passing the ball, hand pass to Ailish O'Reilly, who pops it over. Yeah, Cork weren't getting those scores the same way off Galway.
They weren't. Galway got them a little bit easier, but credit has to go to Galway's attack like that in the semi-final as well, where they absolutely swarmed around the defence of the opposition and never allowed them out in any easy opportunity. They were allowing Cork going short on the puck outs, and then they would press.
Okay.
Then they would come in 2 or 3 players around the back. So the likes of Libby and that, Libby's a super player, but I don't think, she's overly comfortable maybe coming out striking the ball. Very often Libby is hand passing it out. Maybe she was expecting one of the wing backs or Laura Tracy to be there to receive the ball. But again, that confusion was there. They just didn't seem themselves. I don't know, it's obviously not to bring up about the hurlers and all, but the height, the expectation, did it get to them? The mindset, I don't think Cork were complacent. I don't believe that in any way, that Cork were going in yesterday complacent, thinking they just had to rock up and collect the O'Duffy Cup. But did they think it was just going to happen? And then the more you try to make something happen, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And they'll have regrets about yesterday. They did have opportunities. But all in all, I don't think they can have any complaints. Red card aside, Galway were the better team, even though there was only the bare minimum at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, again, anyone listening, you can't emphasise enough, if you didn't catch the game, they still got back level in the 60th minute. That's the extraordinary thing, That shows how good a team they are, even on a bad day. Sarah, give us a word on Dolan's free, because we probably aren't, as Ursula referenced, giving her enough credit. 7 points. That was not an easy free to win in All-Ireland. And she misses that, and it's the chance is potentially gone. And she's all that kind of pressure on her, and it just didn't show at all. It's a brilliant strike from out in the sideline to win a final. It's kind of dreamland territory.
Yeah, I think probably Cork did everything they could to make it as difficult as they could for her in a game that was so physical. To push her out onto the sideline, she was actually outside the white line, taking the free nearly.
Yeah.
But she's a left-sided player, and it suits a left-sided player to take that. Actually, Ursula's a free taker. I know Ursula. It was her bread and butter from that side, wasn't it?
100%. I turned to Anne-Marie Hayes and I said she's going to get this because it was the perfect angle for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was striking them brilliantly all day.
I think she'd missed one. Was it? There was a period. There was a
one
period
just
in the
before
second half.
time to put them 6 points up, but she missed it, and I kind of said, "Oh God, is this a crucial one she's missed?" But look, it was a beautiful strike. She struck it really confidently, and I heard her there this morning speaking, and she said she just kind of very much was in the zone. You know, it was like it was a very routine thing that she was doing. I compare that to how Katrina struck the penalty. I didn't think Katrina looked like the way she stood up for the penalty, like she was going to strike it with any kind of conviction. The body language for me was the big one. I felt like Carrie looked like this was like she was heading out to practice a few frees, up in Galway. She looked very relaxed. Nothing seemed to faze her. Whereas I felt like Katrina looked like she wasn't comfortable in striking it.
Yeah.
That was probably the difference for me. And it's something that Carrie probably has. I'm sure I've heard it before about her, being there at training 30, 40 minutes before training. And it just shows the importance of practice. Because when it comes to the biggest stage, that's a dream way of winning in All-Ireland. As captain, standing up and being a leader when you need her most.
And actually, this year, the leaders across the four codes, the captains, have been incredible. So Gavin White, Ronan Marr, Carla Rowe, and now Carrie Dolan. The captaincy tag doesn't appear to weigh heavily on this year's captains of All-Ireland finals. They've all been incredible.
Interesting. Where does it leave Ger Manley, Sarah, if he got so much wrong on such a big day?
So his term is up, similar to Pat Ryan. What I would say with the Cork setup is it's hard to get managers to commit. And if Ger Manley decides to go back in again next year, I think there won't be an issue. The county board will be happy to keep him. It adds the competition level, and this speaks to the promotion of the game. It's a very quiet year up to the kind of quarter-final, semi-final. You do a lot in the background on your own. There's a heavy lifting done that nobody sees. And the glory only comes at the All-Ireland final stage. And Cathal Murray referenced that, saying that in February, March, he was thinking, what the hell have I come back here again for an 8th year for? That's not too many people are willing to sign up for the heavy lifting that takes place from November to June.
Okay. The attendance was 28,000, give or take. I think last year it was 27,000. 23 there was 30,000. So it's kind of stabilised. Are you glass half full or half empty about that, Ursula?
I'm probably glass half empty. Not to be a negative Nancy here, but I don't think it's good enough that we're not breaking at least the 30,000. I wasn't confident that we were going to break it. The big thing, and obviously I know we've all spoken about it last week and that, but the timing of the game was a big factor for me, for the senior game. 5:15 is not prime time for a senior All-Ireland. For kids and for families and that who are going back to Cork and Galway, it's late in the evening. Was there even a train available for Cork to go back down if they came up by train? I'm not so sure. I think it needs to be looked at. It mightn't be the popular thing to say. I'm not sure does the triple header work.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it works anymore.
It's too long. You're not going to, I'd love to know genuinely how many people were in at 1 o'clock and were there for all 3 games.
Yeah. It's too much.
I don't think it's grand saying we want kind of a day for Camogie. Do we need to put one of the All-Irelands with the under-23 final? I just think 2 finals max. Triple header doesn't work.
And at 2 and 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
For the setup, because you're impacting the players who are playing the matches as well. I had said previously I played the 2004 All-Ireland junior final at 11:30. We were up at 6:30. We were in the Fianna pucking around at 9 a.m. We were in for 11:30. We beat down, but then our seniors lost to tip in the afternoon, and it was the longest day in living memory. it, that's crazy stuff. And that was 2004. That was 21 years ago. And we still have this triple header. It beggars belief. And look, you saw how long it took to get the scores changed. Something like the triple header should be an easy fix for the Camogie Association.
Yeah, it's very, even the football as well. It's not fair on players on the biggest day of their career to get up that early. It's just not. It's not high performance. No. It's unnecessary,
Yeah.
We chatted to Noelle Healy and Nadine Doherty ahead of the football final, and we were just asking generally about the feeling in the game, and it was reasonably negative, I would say. Nadine, who watches every game, had felt that the group stages were pretty predictable. The quarterfinal stages, there were huge winning margins. The final, obviously, there was a worry it would be one-sided, and it was. Allied to that, you have 40 odd of the best players in AFLW. There's kind of frustration with the marketing of the game, and the men's game have these shiny new rules, which everybody is very excited by, whereas ladies football, the physicality problem continues, but also there's kind of a negativity to the tactics. The lesser teams, players behind the ball, not getting up the pitch. Like you mixed it all up. It was a fairly kind of downcast picture. What about Camogie?
I'll leave that to you, Ursula, to start.
For me, you look at the two teams yesterday, top class. I was thrilled that it was those two teams in the final, because I knew it was going to be a brilliant game.
Right.
Then I look at, you've got the Tip, Waterford, Kilkenny, Dublin, kind of in the middle of the ground, and then you have another gap where you have the Limericks, Clares, Wexford, Derrys. So to me, I'm really worried about the gaps that are growing, and they're getting bigger. I remember before the quarterfinals, there was 20 games in the championship, and 11 of those 20 games were hammerings. So that's over 50% of the game were complete hammerings, one-sided games. And the likes of me and Sarah are constantly speaking about the promotion of the game and trying to grow the game and get bigger audiences there and more people supporting, but you won't get supporters going to games if they're going to be hammerings. You have to be open and honest. That's not going to happen. So what do we need to look at? Maybe these counties that are really struggling, we need to see how we can improve coaching in those counties. What added supports can you bring to it? Because the game has never been better in the Corks and Galways. But I look at my own county, we're struggling. It's only 13 years since we won the 3 in a row, and we were in a relegation final this year. So how has that happened? How do we get back up to the level? And yes, the individual counties have to look to themselves as well and say, what can we do? But I think maybe the Camogie Association have to do more in order to kind of bridge that gap, because it is growing. And that's a worry. And you won't get bums on seats if the games are not entertaining.
No. Sarah?
Wow. I've been on the record this week suggesting that the promotion of an All-Ireland final the week before is not the time to promote a championship. I think the Camogie Association have been very poor this year on their promotion of the players playing the game right now. They are so lucky that the All-Ireland final was such a spectacle, because it will have brought fans to the game. It's not about guilting people into attending the game because they supported the Scorts, which was a narrative that was strong throughout the summer. The Scorts issue needed to be solved and rectified on its own. And Joe, I was on with you, and I was very concerned at the time that the vote wouldn't pass. It ended up passing in an overwhelming way, but only because of the work that was done in the 2 weeks leading up to the vote. After that, there was an opportunity to really promote the game from the Camogie Association's point of view, and they do have the funds to do it.
Right.
But we saw nothing. There was no social media buzz around the individual games. They weren't doing highlights reels of players playing the game. They weren't, doing roundups after the weekend just to give people a sense of how the championship was moving. They built a story. They didn't build a story, is what I'm trying to say. They didn't build any story, but yet last week they were out with cap in hand saying, you need to come and support us next weekend. You need to build a story. And I'm
And a big
blue
one
in the
for
face
me,
from saying that.
yeah, what I kind of build on Sarah's point. Like, to me, it's about building like ambassadors for our game, okay? The likes of Aoife Donoghue, Saoirse McCarthy, you know, Aisling Maher, these recognisable faces. Why are they not up on like posters, billboards across social media, you know, as you walk into Croke Park? Like, why are we not making these players more recognisable to the general public? I think, you know, other than us who know the game of Camogie and players and whatever, but like, are they recognisable to the general public? Probably not.
No, not even close. Not even
And
close.
Joe, what I would say to that is, me and Ursula, you're not selling the game to us. We've loved it since we were tots, right? But there's people in pivotal positions in the organization who have an opportunity to showcase the best of Camogie, and they don't take the opportunity to do that. There are women who have left the game who have never understood how brilliant and talented they were. Emer MacDonald was on the pitch yesterday celebrating the 2004 Jubilee. Emer MacDonald is probably the best corner forward that I have ever seen play the game. And it's players like Emer MacDonald should still be in the, you know, subconscious or conscious of Camogie teams. And this is where the Camogie Association continually let themselves down. And Dalton was the best distributor of a ball, hurling or Camogie, in the last 10 years. And there isn't one highlight reel that the Camogie Association have put together of Anne's displays in the last 10 years.
Right.
Like, what an opportunity to monetize the game through social media, which everyone else is doing. And that's just two players that I've picked off the top of my head: Anne Dalton, Emer MacDonald, going back 25 years.
Yeah. Because I have to say, I mean, it's hard to disagree. And even last week, because we had touched on this with Nadine and Noelle. Noelle had this kind of just this, and I prompted her, but she took the baton and more than ran with it. This kind of frustration with, like, she mentioned the Aldi ad, like this sense of, or Lidl, excuse me, if you're almost a good person, you'll support us. And she felt it was patronising. It made it look like the game couldn't stand on its own 2 feet. Like it wasn't worth watching for the sake of watching it because it's good. It was like, you should watch it because that's what good people do almost. And I did, my heart did sort of sink when Brian Malloy, no relation, and I know he's doing his best for sure. So, they got the players in Ireland AM on TV. You wouldn't get that in the men's game in the week of a final. So that's not nothing. They're trying in some respects. But I thought the narrative that, if you had a thought or an opinion on Scoretgate, then you now need to come to this match. I did. So I was like, this is not a good way to sell it. People, like, their time is valuable. Like, in the privacy of their decisions, they're not going to go just because of a line like that. Like that, Ursula, you said the line. You said the line that should have sold this final. I knew this was going to be a good game because these are the two best teams in the country.
Yeah.
Dream like that. Okay, now I'm listening. That's the angle. Not, well, look, Scoregate, come on, you have to go and endure this for 2 hours because you had an opinion on Scoregate. I was like, oh. As I said to the guys last week, no one watches Katie Taylor out of obligation.
But I sat next to Joe Canning 2 years ago in Croke Park. Antrim were playing tip, and Coit Devan scores this absolutely outrageous goal out of nothing. And Joe gets up off his seat with excitement. He sees Coit Devan for what she is. That should be enough. But the Camogie Association need to harness all of the skill to sell the game, not, again, cap in hand. You really should watch us. Yeah, you really should watch us. If Joe Canning is standing up to applaud Coit Devan's skill and ability as one of the greatest hurlers of the game, or Henry Shefflin recognises that Anne Dalton is the best distributor of a ball in Kilkenny, male or female, those are things that should be harnessed, not the fact that we managed to get one over the Camogie Association and get Scorts not off the agenda, because choice is evidently still, very much the order of the day. It was a give and take, but they're selling the wrong thing. They're always selling the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will say that, us as Camogie supporters, people or whatever, sometimes we are always looking to the outside to say, the GA need to be doing this for us and the hurling people should be doing this. I sometimes think Camogie people don't support their own as well, as in like ex-Camogie players, or, you know, we all want to go to the hurling or football final, but like how many people didn't rock up to Croke Park yesterday? Now, it's a bit of one of the other as well, that like maybe the game is not being promoted in the right way and we're not encouraging people in the right manner. But sometimes I feel that maybe before we start looking outwards, there's lots of people within the kind of Camogie community that probably don't get behind.
There's 124,000 registered Camogie members this year.
Yeah, you know, like
that fills Croke Park.
They'll go to Croke Park if their county is in it, but will they go there to watch a brilliant spectacle between Cork and Galway? Probably not.
Yeah.
Ashton's on the telly.
I think the LGFA president said that back in March, actually. You know, we're some of the worst supporters of our own because we've 200,000 members and we're not coming out to the finals, and you know, it's tricky. It's tricky, and if the season isn't catching fire early on, it is hard to suddenly be. That's where I'd have some sympathy for all concerned. If it hasn't been 11 of the 20 or hammer-ins, and it's just not catching fire, and there's a bit of a gap, it probably is hard to suddenly be like, God, I just can't wait for this final out of nowhere, you know. So there's a chicken and egg thing as well. I don't know. It's very difficult. Very difficult.
Look, those who are really passionate, Joe, about Camogie will always be there.
Yeah,
and you know the day itself is a brilliant day for catching up with old friends. And a couple of weeks ago, we were in Croke Park for the GPA lunch. So it was ourselves and the 2005 hurlers who happened to win the double that year.
Yeah.
That day on the Friday, we naively thought that Cork, you know, were going to win on the Sunday and they were going to win this Sunday. And we've walked away from, I suppose, the hurling and Camogie season without the things that were most important to us as a county. But for yesterday, for the spectacle, for what Galway brought to the day, I have no complaints. I'm anticipating that Galway, in what they served up, the challenge that they gave Cork, have brought fans to the game. And that's a big plus point for the association today, Monday morning, and that's where they should start.
Okay.
Stop selling the wrong thing.
Okay. That's a good point to finish on. Brilliant analysis. Thank you both so much. That's brilliant. Ursula Jacob, Sarah O'Donovan. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.